Hello, everyone. And our next guest is Maika Isogawa from Webacy for how to make better bets.
Thank you. All right, good morning, good afternoon, welcome to ETHDenver. I love ETHDenver because this was my first crypto conference ever 4 years ago. And I remember the first ETHDenver I came to, it was snowing out, it was raining, it was slushy, and I was trudging from event to event in my sneakers. And then now we have this beautiful weather, proving that global warming does not exist. So I'm not going to complain, it's fantastic. Well, thank you for spending the next 15 minutes with me to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, which is gambling, or betting, or whatever you want to call it. So we'll get straight into it. We only have 15 minutes together, so I'll try to make it quick. My name is Maika Isogawa. Very briefly, on myself, I studied machine learning and AI at Stanford, and I specifically studied decision-making under uncertainty. So these are things like imperfect information games, self-driving, poker, blackjack. You get the gist, but that was the area that I was very interested in back in school. And my introduction to crypto was actually in 2014. So I used to be an acrobat for Cirque du Soleil, if you're familiar with the entertainment company. Very different career path from now. But I first learned about Bitcoin back then and kind of went down the rabbit hole ever since. Fast forward, I started a company called Webacy, and we originally started to protect digital assets for everybody. And we'll be launching a bunch of things this year, but that's not what we're talking about today. Before we get started, we need to set some context. So betting and gambling it's nothing new. It's actually been around throughout human history, just like everything else that's fun. So where did it start from? The first recorded parts of betting and gambling was actually in 2300 BC in ancient China, where they first discovered tiles, and they had things like the lottery, which many governments utilized to build great projects like the Great Wall of China. Fun fact. Fast forward, and then in ancient Rome, they discovered the first dice, with a caveat. They did find dice in the pyramids of Egypt way back in the day, but they started to see more dice appear historically in ancient Rome, as well as chips. So just like anything, gambling was outlawed in ancient Rome at some point. And so people started gambling with chips instead, so that if they were ever caught, they could say they were just gambling and playing for fun, which is very reflective of where we have chips in the casinos that we have today. Pretty cool history. All right, more or less ancient China, 880, they started seeing cards. And these are not like the 52 deck playing cards that you play with today. These are more like trading cards, like you would see like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! We're all nerdy here, so we've probably seen those kinds of cards. But then the 52 card deck became more prominent in Europe. So they started playing games like Baccarat, which I have no idea how to play Baccarat, but that's what happened. And then in the 1600s, origins kind of unclear, but blackjack became a thing. So I'm sure all of you have played blackjack before, but it was a part of a social, the social upper class, and then kind of migrated to everything else within Spain, France, America. It's a big question, kind of where it came from originally. And then Italy, the first casinos. I wish I could have been there back then in 1638, but that's where they started to appear. And then now we have them all over the world. And then can you guess what the last one would be that is more modern for us? Some would say it's sports betting, but we're at a crypto conference, so it is meme coins. This is what I would consider the modern day gambling, betting, that kind of ecosystem. Betting has always been a mix of entertainment, risk, and speculation. And it's also something that's always existed in our human society in the world. And it's very actually quite fun. In each of these eras, there were the people that were insiders, and then the people that were outsiders. And when you're gambling and playing these games, this type of dichotomy is super important to remember as you play this game. And historically, the house has always won. But as we've seen in meme coins and trading and crypto, especially recently, we now have an opportunity to become the house in many ways. Whether it's legal or not, it's kind of a gray area at the moment. But before we move forward, I personally think about gambling and betting in a different way. I think that every decision we make, every way we choose to spend our time, the fact that you're here with me today, the fact that you're here at this event at ETHDenver is a decision, and it's a gamble of your time and your resource and your attention. And whether or not it's going to pay off, that's the gamble and the bet. So that's how I approach all of this decision-making that I make every single day. And it brings us to what we're going to talk about today. They say that we make 3,500 decisions a day. And for as many seconds as there are in a day, this means that you're making a decision every 3 to 6 seconds. You wake up, you decide to wake up, you decide to come here, you decide to work in crypto. These are all choices that you make, many of them unconscious. But you have to consider where those came from. So maybe it's because you were raised somewhere, or that your parents taught you something, or that you're in a certain circle of friends and that influences your decision. So all of things we have to start considering. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I personally really like it. Meme coins and gambling have found a sort of PMF, we can argue this later, in the market, especially the past few months and years. And this is a reality we have to understand as a founder and a builder. I'm a founder myself, and so sometimes I feel this way, and sometimes when I make some money on a meme coin, I'm not too angry about it. But you can't really argue with money. It's been one of the largest money-making platforms this cycle, meme coins, gambling, and all of us here, I'm sure, have done something to bet into a meme coin, to bet into a narrative, and hopefully you made some money along the way, although the numbers would say that most of us have lost. Now, they say that all of these meme coins are fair. And yes, maybe in some ways, the platforms and the way that the meme coins, for example, on Pump.fun, which is screenshotted here, is a fair launch. The code is the same, the opportunity is the same, the platform is the same, but we all know this is actually not true. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that make the bet and the gamble completely unfair to people that are not in the narrative and in the insider circle. So now, I don't have too much more time with you, so we're going to get to the practicality of how to actually make better bets. And this can be applied to crypto, but hopefully you can take it away for the rest of your life. The first thing is to understand the narrative and understand the incentive. Every builder, every dev, every project has an incentive. And for crypto, it's probably to make money. Maybe it's to raise money for a good cause, but most of the time it's just to make some cash. But you also have to understand the narrative. Cryptos and meme coins with really good stories end up exploding many times. So for example, if you remember Peanut the Squirrel, there was a big narrative behind it, and then of course it gets picked up by KOLs. The biggest KOL, Elon, started tweeting about it. It became something that people believed in, because then it became bigger than a person or a squirrel or OnlyFans. It became bigger because it was government overreach in many ways. So this is a narrative that people got behind, and it really went up in value. So when you're buying into something, is there a narrative that could gain popular attention and gain popular vote? It's kind of like a religion. If you can sell a good story, you're going to have followers, and it's going to become bigger and have traction. The second thing, and this is a real wake-up call or a real kind of self-check, is to understand your place. If you're not the insider launching the coin, or you don't have insider information, you're probably an outsider or the exit liquidity. And you can play this as much as you want to, but the reality is you're probably not going to win against the people who know the best. So again, back to this slide, there are insiders and outsiders. So if you're here, you're more of an insider than a lot of the retail consumers. But the reality is, if you want to make money and you want to make a good gamble, whether it's crypto or not, whether it's legal or not, you need to understand your place within that network of information. We found out recently that there are some major insider information games being played on some of the bigger meme coins that happened to be launched at the end of last year. But this is not just a meme coin thing. This is everything. This is every business. This is everything you decide to do. This is every relationship that you might even have. And so you have to think in a bigger context of where is your positioning? Are you well positioned to even make this bet in the first place? The last part is to give yourself an edge. There's a lot of opportunities out there, whether it's self-education or whether it's paying for tools to do better research, do better filtering. And you have to use them if you want to not just be the sucker at the end of the day. This is Bubble Maps. I'm sure you've heard of it before. But you have to do your own diligence on a token. Some people might argue, when the token launches, it's all about speed. Yes, that might be true. And if you're okay losing all of your money, then do that. But the reality is there's a lot of tools out there that will tell you things like, where is this token coming from? Who are the insiders that are getting the token distributed to them? Are you enough? Are you early enough? Are you going to be able to sell early enough to make a profit on this? And these are things that are all available to you. Even things like bundling, which became a big issue in Solana, bundling is not actually a bad thing. It's a little counterintuitive. Sometimes if a team is really good enough to bundle, that's something you might actually want to bet on a little bit. Or the opposite way. If it's too bundled, then you know that you don't have a chance at making any money. And so there's a ton going on here within the ecosystem, and there's tools out there to be able to understand them. So we're coming up on time. I'll leave this out here, but you have to think about life in percentages. Every decision you make, there's a percentage of success, a percentage of failure. This slide in particular is talking about the percentage of an asteroid hitting. I'm a huge poker player and a huge poker fan, and I know that more than times I can count, my aces have been broken plenty by things that have less of a percentage of winning. So this is kind of showcasing the percentage of an asteroid hitting. If you play poker before, this has happened many times. So count your days. But just to showcase that every time you choose to go do something, you hang out with someone, you extend like the time and energy to go talk to someone, you are making a gamble and you are making a bet. So hopefully, whether or not you walk away with anything here, this time together, you'll be able to understand that the decisions that you make every day are not just like willy-nilly decisions. You can actually improve them by thinking about it and taking these things into account. So I'll pause there. My name is Maika again. You can reach out to me at Maika Isogawa, and also the company that we run. Check out dd.xyz, double D, or webacy.com. DD. Thank you.